So, Kalimera. I don't know if that's the right way to pronounce it, but it's great to be back in Greece. I haven't been here for 30 years, so really excited to be here. Thanks for inviting me. It's soon lunch, maybe you're already tired, so I'm going to invite you to play a little game. Don't worry, it won't be much on your part. I am going to play the role of a manager at Microsoft, and you are going to be, well, you. So you do you, and I'll do Microsoft Manager. So I have the question on what should we build, and this is what I need your help with deciding. So imagine then that I am the manager for the MSN real estate site. There's a widget that's called Find a Home. And now I have contracted an external company to produce some designs. And you can see the top left corner is the so-called incumbent or control. That's the existing solution. And the other we call treatments. There are various experiments or versions that we could do. So I would like you to think about which one should we choose? Which one should we choose? We produced all these nice designs. So, who thinks that the top left one, the control, the one that we already have, is the right one, that we should keep going with that? Raise your hand. No? No one? Okay. So, who thinks that the top right, treatment 1, is the right one to go with? Raise your hand if you think treatment 1. Okay, there's quite a few hands. And then the middle left, treatment 2, with the house and the magnifying glass. How many believe in treatment 2? Okay, I see a few hands. Treatment 3, to the right in the middle. Anyone? Treatment 4, the bottom left. Wow, there's a strong belief in treatment 4. Nice. And last but not least, treatment 5, the bottom right. Okay, there's some people. Well, I think that's interesting support for treatment 4. So in your company today, if you were facing a similar situation that you had to decide which solution should we use, and you had these designs or several designs, who would make that decision? Just shout it out. Who would make that decision? Is it a developer or project manager or? Sorry? Manager? I heard manager.
CEO.
CEO. It's a smaller company than Microsoft, I hope. Okay, so the one that, actually there was a contest run by this external design firm. So the ones that built these different creative designs, and they had to guess, the professional designers, which one would win. And only 3 out of 21 experts guessed the right one, which was treatment 5. The ones that said this one, they believed that it was simpler, it looked like a search experience. And in the end, it increased revenues from referrals by almost 10%. So when you click these, Microsoft would get referrals from the real estate agents. So 10% revenue increase. That's a huge difference, right? Okay, now I'm the manager of the MSN homepage. And we have this issue that, or this opportunity, that when people come to our website and you are a Hotmail user, we have this widget. And if you click on the widget to read your unread emails, the current solution is that now Hotmail will open in place of the MSN site. But we have an idea, maybe we should have it open in a tab instead, in a new tab, the Hotmail. And the idea is we want to increase engagement with our products. So who here suggests that we should keep it in place rather than open it in a new tab? Raise your hand if you want to open it in the same window. Okay, in the tab. Oh yeah, okay, it's pretty much equal. So it turns out the tab is the winner. Actually, they tried this on 1 million users, got this solution for a 16-day period in MSN UK. And it increased engagement by 8.9%. At first, they didn't really believe it, and then they tried it and rolled it out into other markets and saw the same result. And this is the single most effective engagement increasement change that Microsoft has ever done. And it only took a few lines of code to actually fix it. Okay, another thing. So we have the one on the left, that's the incumbent, the current solution. So if you click anywhere in the red boxes to the left or that small red box, you will get to the buy page. And the new suggestion is to have a huge buy button. So who believes that the current solution is the best one, the one to the left? Raise your hand if you think that's the best. And the new solution to the right, raise your hand if you think that's better. Okay. Actually, it turns out that the current solution is better. In fact, the new solution had 64% fewer users click on the buy button. 64% fewer. But a bunch of you thought that that was the best option. And we don't know, when we just track data and look at users' behaviors, we can see how they behave, but we can't really be sure why. That's why it's always important to combine the quantitative analysis with some qualitative analysis and ask users and do customer research and figure out why, what happened here, take me through your thinking. And it turns out that the price is displayed fairly big on the right-hand side. And a lot of people who clicked on the left did that to find out what the price was. But what they should ultimately be looking at, who actually purchased the most from these two, not who clicks on the button. So it's also easy sometimes to get fooled by what are we measuring? Are we measuring the relevant things? Okay, one more. Which search header should we use? The one at the top or the one at the bottom? The top, raise your hand. The bottom? Okay, that's both sides. The one at the bottom is the best one because as designers would tell us, it has an action verb, search. So that's, designer love that. Steve Krug in his book, Don't Make Me Think, is a hard advocate for using these verbs. And it actually works. It statistically significantly increased searches. So let's put that to the test. Okay, we have another search box. So we put the actionable search in the bottom one. Which one did you think won this time? The one at the top or the new one with the action verb? There wasn't any difference. So we don't know. Okay, last one. So we have a Bing search engine. So which text color should we use in the search results? So can you even see the difference? Can you tell the difference between the two colors? It's slightly darker. If someone would ask you which one to choose, is it the control color, the existing one, or the one on the right? So the control, the one on the left, raise your hand. The one on the right. Okay, a little bit more on the right. But my guess is actually that you would, in reality, say, who cares? You know, why does it even matter? And that's also what the design experts said. That's like, there's so little difference, so people can't actually say. But in reality, users who saw slightly darker blues and greens in titles and slightly lighter black in captions were successful in their searches a larger percentage of the time, and those who found what they wanted did so in significantly less time. When rolled out to all users, the color changes boosted revenue by more than $10 million annually. So apparently it mattered. So I think we've seen here, if you've looked at your hands going up and down, and that you don't know what will work. And that's the mindset that you need to get into when you are building products with software. So you don't know, but neither do the experts. And we already heard Itamar mentioning this Ron Kohavi, who used to run data and experimentation at Amazon and Microsoft. And you saw some similar numbers, but the vast majority of new ideas actually fail in experiments, and even experts misjudge which ones will pay off. At Google and Bing, only 10 to 20% of experiments generate positive results. At Microsoft as a whole, as you saw in Itamar's slides, actually 1/3 prove effective, and 1/3 have neutral effects, but even worse, 1/3 have negative results. So if you're not better than Google and Microsoft, and you're not checking what you're doing and validating it for real with data, there's a chance that you're actually building a lot of stuff that not only doesn't make any difference, but actually making things worse. And we know from the Standish Group's chaos reports that have been run yearly for many years now, that many of our solutions that we even custom make, like projects internally, where we can ask the users, what do you want, end up with features that are 20% are used often, but 30% infrequently, and 50% hardly ever. So we can't even trust the users to say what they want. When we did that at Spotify, we asked, what kind of music do you listen to? Well, I only listen to indie artists I discovered while contemplating life. That's the image of themselves that they want to project, subconsciously or consciously. When we looked at the data, though, what they are actually consuming is like the charts. It's only mainstream and top list music. So we can't even trust the users. I mean, they can't predict their future behavior. Every New Year's Day, the new year is starting, I get these offers, gym membership. And I'm like, hell yeah, this is the year, now it's happening. Come April, how much am I actually using that gym membership card? Well, you can take a guess. So it feels like most of the clients that I work with, it's like this. They're flying or swimming totally blind, going into a whitewater river, just blindfolded, let's swim to the other side and hope that they make the right point. And it's almost like when they get there, they're too busy to even checking, did we actually come to the right place? Because they're too busy jumping into the next exciting whitewater river and swim over that. So a lot of my time, it feels like this is what I'm trying to do when I help clients. Why can't you see? And how can't you see? And this is so difficult. I mean, I can tell you all these things, I can have you go through them, and yet you will go home and say, but hey, we have a year of backlog, 2 years, 3 years of things we know that we must do. So this doesn't really apply to us because we're so different. No, you're not. I mean, even if you're building internal things for users and they say, this is what we want, you give it to them. If you would actually measure, is this helping you be faster or make fewer errors and so on, there's a chance that even though they say they're happy with the solution, it's actually not better than the one you replaced. So why is this so? That's what I'm going to talk a little bit now. And my name is Joakim Sundén, that's how it's actually pronounced. I'm from the north of Sweden, close to where the Arctic Circle is, where the sun never sets in the summer, but unfortunately never rises in the winter. So today is a very warm day for me, I can say. There's a LinkedIn QR code. I wrote a book, and yeah, you can look at the slides later if you want to know more about me. So let's do a little bit more interactivity before I leave you be. So can anyone tell me what this is, or your guess what it is? A car. Yeah, the first car, one of the first cars. It's like over 100 years ago. And now, today, we have this. Oh, you don't, but it's available at least, in a sense. And it's a world of difference, of course, security-wise, it's autonomous driving and all of these things. In the former one, you could probably get hit by a stone from the tire and in your head and be killed. This one, you can crash into another car in high speed and you have a pretty good chance of surviving, for instance. So it's an amazing development, of course. So what do you think this is? Any guesses? It's one of the first telephones. Then you can argue whether it was the Italian or the US guy who invented it first, but I guess they could call each other to argue about it. And then this is, of course, today's phones, and it's an astonishing difference. It's remarkable. You have the whole world's information at your fingertips. You can contact anyone across the globe, and so on and so forth. Amazing achievements. So this is one similarly old, one of the org charts from over 100 years old. This is how we used to organize companies. Imagine the development. When I now flip to the next slide, what does it look like today? Well, at least it has colors now, right? Because we didn't have colors back in the day, but now we do. So, problem with how we run companies today is that it's often based on a model that was developed at this time, making early cars. And when you worked at the Ford assembly line, you could get fired for smiling. Seriously. It's like, why are you smiling? You're here to work. It can't be that fun. Then you're probably, doing something wrong. And how could management get away with that? How could that work? Well, in part because work was highly standardized, and management and others knew what the best approach was, or they thought they did. And the idea that someone working on the assembly line would have improvement suggestions was laughable. And it was highly individual. You did your part, and then next part, someone else did. So you didn't really have to collaborate. It was just follow the task to its point. But it's quite objective to see, are you doing it right? Are you doing it as we've instructed you to do it? Is the result coming out? Are the parts connected? Is it a car? And of course, these days, it's anything but. Now it's creative. We really need people to, in knowledge work, to think by themselves and to figure out things and how to do it. And the manager is rarely the best person to do the job. And even if the manager happens to be an expert, they can't make all the decisions, because how would they be able to run the company? They don't have the closeness to the problem, to the customers, and so on. They're not working with enabling technology every day. Everything is team-based when we do software development, or should be if we really want to be high-performing. And we discover the right solution, to my point earlier. Is it this or is it that? We don't know. When am I done? Could I have finished this faster or in a more effective way? It's kind of subjective even. Does this have the right quality? Is it carried out in the right way? So it's a very different scenario. And then, of course, 20 years ago or so, a little bit more, 18 guys, I think it was, 17 maybe, yeah, they were all guys, got together and proclaimed the Agile Manifesto. And things have really changed since then, for sure. It's a world of difference, actually, in how we work. But as we saw in Itamar's presentation earlier, we're so freaking agile in some part of the delivery value stream, but there are lots of parts happening to deliver customer solutions other than just developing them. So Jeff Patton has called this the customer-vendor anti-pattern, that we tend to run our organizations as if we have internal customers and some vendors that are going to deliver that. But it's not really a free market, because the vendor, IT, they can't really say, no, we won't do that, that's unreasonable. They have to. The guys on the business side, they can't really take their business elsewhere if they don't get the estimates or things that they like. And if they are able to persuade IT to do it, take on more work, and they think they've won the debate, they're just stealing money out of their own pockets. Or as Itamar put it earlier, God, I feel like he stole my thunder, didn't he? It's like, yeah, you heard Itamar, and yeah. But hopefully it's a little bit of a fresh perspective. And repetition is the mother of learning, right? So, in a traditional organization, managers that I talk to, top executives and so on, they often understand very well that they shouldn't be, they don't want to be involved in making decisions at lower levels. And they want to encourage an organization where they don't have to micromanage. But at the same time, they have some responsibility of creating the right things. So the old idea is then to let's only focus on the big things, on the bigger projects or business cases or programs. That sounds good enough, and we'll leave the details to the people on the floor. Okay, but how do we know what projects to finance and choose and prioritize and shut down? Well, we need to understand how much they cost and what the benefit is. Oh, okay, so we need to break it down and understand the work, and all of a sudden you've decided a lot of things up front and do a lot of things up front before involving the actual people doing the work. So you get these long-term projects, detailed budgets, toll gates is kind of the only way that you can measure the progress. And middle management doesn't really have it any better, because all they got to do now is, okay, deliver on plan. Are we on time? Are we on budget? Are we on scope? Trying to coordinate all the people who need to be involved in delivering this big project. But for resource efficiency reasons, we've built silos or departments. There are many benefits of economies of scale of doing that and specializing. But we also tend to build these silos that make collaboration hard. So managers have to run around and coordinate to understand what's even going on. And we don't really have a direct feedback loop back to the top of the organization, because we run these long projects, we fail to be able to measure, are we doing the right thing? We've kind of already decided that when we launched the project in many cases. So we can't really act on what we learn until the whole thing is, released and delivered. In the words of Marty Kagan, who has studied or seen how many great product companies work, he says that in most companies, technology teams exist to serve the business. It's a cost of doing the real business, which might be banking or auto manufacturing and so on. And if you view it like that, and like Jeff Patton and Itamar, it's easy to focus on delivery teams that are not cross-functional, basically just developers and a backlog administrator, product owner, a glorified list owner who can only resequence things on a list for 2-week iterations or something. And all about the output. Are we churning out the widgets that we were told to do? Not really empowered. They're there to code and ship. Maybe with Agile and Scrum, we're getting more of feature teams that are usually cross-functional, and maybe at least have some form of design and product manager who make decisions on where should that button go, what should that look and feel like, within the scope of what's already mainly decided by stakeholders or the business or something else. So the way a colleague at Spotify phrased this is that we tend to get the product owner or product manager as a gatekeeper. And gatekeeping is a term used to describe when someone is in a position of power or knowledge. When someone in a position of power or of knowledge intentionally or unintentionally controls access to a specific community or activity. So it's not to be bad, but they think they're protecting the teams. I'll talk to the customers, I'll understand the market and so on, and then translate that into specifications and work items and so on. Which means that the team gets a really low empathy and engagement with the customer and end user. They don't really know what's going on. And we miss an opportunity for the ones who are working with the enabling technology every day to contribute to coming up with innovative solutions. Okay, so what can we do? Well, one thing I learned at Spotify was that, so I was working at Spotify from 2011 to 2017, or from 8 teams to roughly 200 teams. And we focused a lot on empowering the teams. We called it the autonomous squad, but nowadays everyone calls it empowered product team. So I'm trying to get with the times and do that as well. But it's the same. I mean, we studied these books, Jeff Patton's user story mapping, inspired on product discovery techniques by Marty Kagan, the lean startup, lean UX, These books came out around that time, 2011, 2012. I think Marty Kagan's book is from 2008. These are not new ideas. The examples from testing that you saw on Microsoft, except the Bing search engine, but the older ones, they are from 2009. So there's nothing new here. These are existing working practices that lots of successful companies are doing. We collaborated with Facebook, we had ex-Google people, we had people from Amazon and Netflix, all of these really great product companies. They were all doing the same. Empower the teams, let them do product discovery, let them figure out the solution. And it really is no secret how great companies work. As we saw in most companies, technology teams exist to serve the business, but in strong product companies, the purpose of the product team is to serve customers by creating products that the customers love, yet work for the business. And that shift in thinking makes the whole difference. And this has been becoming known lately as the product operating model, or the product model for short. And it's really a set of principles reflecting what some of the best companies, product companies, have in common. A difference from most companies in how we build and deploy things. So working in small teams incrementally, frequent releases, have an experimentations platform where it's possible to do A/B testing, continuous integration, and all of that. But also how we solve problems, giving teams problems to solve and let them figure it out. And how we decide which problems to solve. Again, much of what Itamar talked earlier about. Instead of having a glorified roadmap as a strategy, working with real strategy and product visions. And this is also a change in how we lead and manage teams and people. That's different from this pyramid that we saw earlier. And that also means a different culture. So sometimes we refer to these as a difference in product delivery, discovery, strategy, leadership, and culture. And I think that Agile or Scrum is a lot about the first one, the difference in how we build and deploy things. And some people and teams struggle with that still, for sure. But if you're not already thinking about how can we empower our teams and people to actually give them problems to solve, you're probably behind your competitors. So we basically want to do this. Of course, flip the pyramid upside down, where we have a team focus of self-organizing teams, empowered product teams that collaborate between themselves and need to figure out who do I need to talk to, what dependencies do we have, how do we manage these things, what content, what have they learned that we can benefit from, what experiments are they running. And management focus on vision, goals, what are the strategic context, the insights, all of the good stuff that Itamar showed on his wheel and GIST framework and so on. And servant leadership and people development and help deblocking the teams. The CTO at Spotify used to say that the autonomous squad, or empowered product team, is the central feature of our organization. All other features of the organization should be designed to support that mini startup-like squad. And then we have transparent information flowing in both ways. What we learn and discover from running experiments and doing discovery and so on, that goes straight into the leadership team that now can use that context and to focus on things and teach the other teams what we've learned. So instead of delivery and feature teams, we get these cross-functional, focused and measured by outcome, and empowered to come up with solutions that work. And just to make sure that we're all on the same page here, what I mean with focus on outcomes. So we see in the world a lot of pains for our users and customers, problems or opportunities to make things better, or declining results or brand awareness for our product. And this gives us lots of ideas on how we can change things. And as we saw earlier, and as we heard from Itamar, most of our ideas are not going to be that good, but it's so easy to fall in love with them or assume that, yeah, this is it, the chatbot for sure. And then we focus on the product, the feature, maybe even the specifications and requirements. But we're losing track of, is it actually changing anything? Is it helping the users? Again, back to the example with the the people that got to experience the chatbot, and we learned a lot about, whoa, this doesn't seem to be solving their problems at all. Actually, it's creating a whole new range of problems. So we want to minimize the output, prototype things, not code, not build production-ready code, in order to maximize the outcome before we realize which solution is the most that we have the most confidence for, and then we can productify that. The activities, epics, features, stories, that's how we believe that we are going to reach our outcomes. But they are just hypotheses and bets. They have to change if the numbers aren't improving. So we need to move from opinions to data. Not we're working on X because Sam said it's important. We're done when Sam is okay with it or when it fulfills the specification. No, we're working on X because we think it's going to give impact Y, which matters to Spotify because of Z. And we're done when the metrics have moved. And we need to take responsibility for actually reaching that result, not just implementing the feature or shipping the code. Or in the words of Google, let data drive decisions, not the hippo, the highest paid person's opinion. So that means moving away from the product owner, product manager as a gatekeeper, and instead employing them as a facilitator and collaborative leader. And facilitating means referring to the process of making something easier possible. So understanding all this product context and customer context, making it more easily available, digestible, sorting out the signals from the noise. And maybe the team members actually have access. At Spotify, for instance, you could build your own metrics dashboard, you could watch videos of customer research and so on. But the product manager and product designers, if you're fortunate to have that, they have more bandwidth and time, they have the skills and the expertise to make sense of all of this data and customer interview and highlight the most interesting to you. So as an example, you don't have to go into the details, but this is from a Spotify team building a taste onboarding feature. So they would say, oh, okay, the product manager has worked together with analytics or something to come up with, okay, this is something interesting that we see. There's a decrease by blah, blah, blah due to added friction. We can see that in the funnel, it's probably about, we should optimize friction versus taste signals and get more people to play without hurting recommendations. So this is giving the team a problem to solve. It's not now that the product manager says, so this is the feature we're going to build, but more opening up the space. So what do we know about the technology that we're working with every day? Some experiments or changes we could try that would improve this thing. Or similar with the interviews, compiling and summarizing what we learned from talking to actual users or customers and showing them prototypes. So this is something that ideally teams can start doing differently already now. How can we invite more of the team and be more collaborative and base it on data and analysis and understanding? Why not by using Itamar's great GIST framework? But of course, the problem is, as Itamar said, also that the organization might not be allowing that. We have this customer-vendor anti-pattern. So we need to change that. Big projects or programs or roadmaps that are basically written in stone and focus more on what are the objectives and the mission for the company. What product vision and principles does that translate to? How does that inform our team topology? Back to what Michael and Heidi was talking about earlier, redesigning and rethinking the teams, not just based on the social structures and the technological constraints, but also for what vision do we want to actually make real. And this informs the product strategy. What are the few levers we can pull, and how are they based on insights and data? And this will help us give objectives and problems to solve to the teams. Unfortunately, I won't have time to go into that more, but fortunately for you, Itamar already did, and I can really recommend his book and his tool, the GIST and the confidence thing. And I've also written, together with Marty Kagan, an article on how the product model was applied at Spotify, where you can see some of these examples of strategic context and how that informed teams and enabled empowerment of the teams in that website. As I mentioned, Itamar's book, but also Marty Kagan's on empowered and transformed, I think are really good starting points for this. So, in summary, great product companies work in a different way compared to most companies. It's not about Scrum or Agile, that's part of it, but it's also a difference in how they build and deploy software, solve problems, decide which problems to solve, lead and manage teams and people. And most of you probably don't work like this today, but the good news is that it's no secret how others do it, and you can learn how to do it too. And the shameless sales plug is, of course, if you want to learn that, I have a course, you have a 30% discount, and if you have any questions or want to talk and chat, I'll be here the whole day and this evening, and don't hesitate to contact me on any of these contact means, and I'll be happy to set up a video chat or talk more. Thank you.